Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me here in beautiful Ojai, California, where we'll be broadcasting this live webinar on the mind system. That's right. We're not just talking about how to improve our memory or cognitive function, but we're going to talk about our mind, because according to Ayurveda, the mind is a system of the body, just like we have circulatory system, we have respiratory system. Well, we have a mind system. And this mind system can have many types of imbalances. And we're going to talk about these imbalances. We could call it almost like mind bearing channel. It's like a system in our head that's processing information, storing information, making decisions. And its main input that's coming into the mind is coming from the five senses. That's right. Sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. So that's the input. It's coming into our mind, through our nervous system. The mind is supported by the nervous system. So if the nerves are affected, the mind will be affected. So we gave a talk recently about the nervous system and nervous disorders. So this is the mind, the state of mind. And what is the function of the mind? Of course, it's thinking, inquiry, creating goals, making decisions, and direction. It's like got a job. It's like our respiratory system is involved in, the inhalation of oxygen, the exhalation of carbon monoxide, and supporting our body with the prana that's generated from this respiratory process. So the mind has a function. It's good to see your mind in this sense. So you don't want to live in your mind. You don't want to be in your mind. You don't want to be too attached to your mind. Your mind is a vehicle. It's a system in your body. You're not your mind. And I find a lot of people in our modern times where we're very busy and there's a lot of stimulation and activity going on that we're overstimulated and we become stuck in our mind. We have what we call disorders or imbalances of the mind. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So losing our memory, not having recall, this is just one type of imbalance of the mind. So, it's good to look at our mind from this objective point of view and that we're observing our mind. We are not our mind. We're the consciousness that's looking at our mind, observing the mind. That's why we don't want to, be lost in our own thoughts, obsessed with our own thoughts. Are basically thinking too much. Most people with, mental imbalances are overthinking, believing their thoughts are something, and they're just thoughts. They can pass and come and go, and we can let go of them, we can hang on to them, but in fact, they're just thoughts moving. We have to be able to detach from our mind. But to do that, we need to balance it out. We need to support it. We need to make sure that it has what it needs, both on a nutritional level, an environmental level, and most important, we have to detach from it. We can say like, you are the rider of the horse, but you're not the horse. You are the manager of the mind, but you're not the mind. So unfortunately, nowadays we've become lost in our thoughts. We believe we are our mind. So, but in Ayurveda, the mind is just one system in our body, and we need to look at it from this objective point of view. So first, I want to talk about symptoms of imbalance of the mind. So one of the most serious imbalances of the mind, and maybe one of the most difficult conditions to cure that there is negative thinking. That's right, negative thinking. If you have negative thinking, imbalance, I don't want to use the word disease, but it's imbalance of the mind. Inappropriate thoughts, over emotional thoughts, confusion, lack of clarity, indecisiveness, poor concentration, misperception of reality. And we know there's plenty of this going on, and this is because we're overthinking, we're lost in our mind, and our perception of reality becomes distorted. These are all imbalances of the mind. And of course, memory loss, lack of understanding. And of course, our mind can degenerate into conditions where we have types of dementia, Alzheimer's, there can be A.D, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and of course, ultimately, you could go into a coma, and your mind would stop working. But also just lack of goals, lack of direction, lack of purpose in life. These are all states of the mind. And a wonderful thing is about the mind is that it's easy to treat because it's attached to the nervous system, supported by the nervous system, and all of its input is coming from the five senses. It's easy to affect or manage the mind by managing what you taste, what you see, what you smell, what you hear. By changing these, you will change the state of your mind and your nervous system. So, and very quickly. Unlike, say, fat tissue. Say you're 20 pounds overweight. Well, it's going to take some time to reduce this fat tissue down. Say you have degenerative bone condition. You want to build up more bones. It's going to take some time to build up more bones. But when we're talking about balancing the mind, it can be very quickly it could be balanced using scent, which we're going to show you. We have some scents which we can smell, which can affect the mind. Taste, and we can even talk about sounds and things, mantras, music that can be played that can affect the mind quickly. So that's the good news. Can balance out very good. And as far as dementia and Alzheimer's, of course, I'm getting many cases like this. And we're going to talk about some of the causes of these degenerative cognitive conditions. But I will say, and you can see testimonials on my own website, where I've been very successful. And I think all Ayurvedic practitioners are very successful with improving mental function. And that's because there's many Ayurvedic formulas that are been made in the past, thousands of years ago, that have helped with memory issues, and even Western herbs working very well for improving memory, bringing back memory. So I've had clients who couldn't remember their own children's name. You know, I had a client whose husband kept calling her by her, his ex-wife's name, and so and then after taking the herbs, changing the diet, memory completely restores, remembering children's names, remembering the your wife. All of this can be restored. The mind can be restored, and there's no need for it to continue to degenerate and become worse. Because particularly if you get it in the early stages, once there's excess inflammation that could be damage to the nerve sheath, then we have more serious condition. But we want to get these imbalances, like all health problems, in the early stage, not in the later stage where there's already been destruction to the tissue. So we're going to talk about the causes of these imbalances to the mind. And of course, in Ayurveda, it's a tridoshic system. So we look at everything through the tridoshic lens. This means we're looking at things that are, we're looking at the state of mind or for Vata, Pitta, or Kapha. So you should try to determine now your state of mind based on one of these three categories, because that's going to determine your possible imbalances and, of course, the treatment. So first we have the Vata state of mind. We know Vata, Prakriti, or body type, is light, cold, dry, active, rough. So this type of person has a lot of thinking. They're very active, very moving around, cleaning the whole house, nervous. But also the mind is going too fast, moving too quickly. And this creates anxiety, poor sleep, thinking at night, thinking all night. So these are Vata imbalances of the mind, overly active, you could say. And it's going to result in anxiety, nervousness, grief, sadness, indecision. We're going to see that in this type of imbalance. And it's generally for the Vata type of person. And then there's Pitta type of person, who's generally a warmer, hot, more stronger, muscular, and their qualities are warm, hot, sharp, liquid. So this type of emotion this type of person can have, and anybody could have a different state of mind. Just generally, a Vata person will have a state of mind, but not always. And Pitta person will have Pitta state of mind. So Pitta state of mind is going to be more irritation, irritability, jealousy, anger, pride, aggression, and of course, healthy signs like ambition, drive, competition. But if this sense of competition is too much, it becomes aggressive. This drive and passion is too much, it becomes aggressive, and your critical thinking becomes too much, it becomes jealousy and even hatred. This is the pitta. So when a person's like, man, this is that pitta. Oh, you should have done this. You should have done that. You should be like this. I'm mad at you. This is pitta. It's irritability. And a wonderful thing is there's many herbs to balance that out as well. Herbs work very well. As we now know, here in the United States, most of the states now, cannabis is a legal substance now. And those who have it for medical purposes know that it helps very quickly with mood, besides appetite, digestion, pain. There's many medical uses for cannabis and many strains. But it shows you just one herb, in this case cannabis, can change the mind, relax the mind very, very quickly. And those who have done herbal teas, valerian, passion flower, gotu-kola, ginkgo, you can see that you can drink the tea in a very short period of time. You can feel the effects on your nervous system and mind. So we can calm the mind, we can slow the mind down for vata type, and we can cool the mind down for pitta type, because pitta type is warm, so they have a warm blood, so they're a hot-blooded person. So we said in the old days, hot-blooded person, easy to get short-tempered. So that's pitta. So we got to cool the mind. So some vata type person must slow the mind down. Pitta type of person must cool the mind down. And then there's kapha emotions. And there is more associated with greed, attachment, possessiveness, confusion, and even depression, where they're feeling sad and slow and don't feel good and don't want to take action and don't feel motivated, and this is in those drives. So in this sense, the mind needs to be stimulated, needs to be motivated to have more vata, more creativity, more action, and more pitta, more fire, more drive. So, of course, we find that if we look at couples, we can see that couples almost inevitably marry opposite states, body types, and states of mind. So you may find one person a little slow and lethargic and tends to be sad, while the other person's spouse is active and motivating, and together they're very balancing. So the active vata type of person with a lot of energy and enthusiasm, maybe slightly restless, hyperactive, gets that slow kapha person going. Well, that slow kapha person calms down the vata. So then they work together to balance out each other's natures. You can see this almost all the time with married couples that have been around a long time together. If you're the same type, then it won't work. If you're a very nervous, anxious person and you marry another nervous person, then you both become nervous, anxious, and it doesn't last. Same with the pitta. If you're both, hot-tempered, short-tempered, irritable, then you fight and it's have a great one-night stand or a good honeymoon, but it doesn't last, because there's this drive and passion, but it's too much when the two people are clashing. But if you have one who's driven, motivated, and hot-tempered, and then the other one's like calm and slow and relaxed, and everything is like water off a duck's back, then he's not affected by the irritability and anger of the other person. So many times we've seen this type of irritable, angry person married the calm, slow, slightly depressed person, and together they get along just fine. So that's one way to find balance, is just marry somebody who's the opposite of yourself. That's tends to be but we should also try to find balance in our own lives through our diet and our lifestyle and herbal treatments to balance out these three states of our mind. And the memory loss, this is mostly coming from blockage in the mind. A few causes of these imbalances are, excessive desires for things, caffeine, steroids, alcohol, pharmaceutical drugs, marijuana, preoccupation, obsession with thoughts, thinking of the future, obsession with the future, keep thinking of the future. This is actually a disease or imbalance in the mind in Ayurveda, thinking constantly of the future, living in the future, because there is no future. Nobody knows what will happen tomorrow. We could have big earthquakes in the ocean. We don't know what will happen. Nobody knows. Only God knows. So there's not much value. We can plan for it. We can hope for it. We can pray for it, but there's no point to live in it and mess with it. And it creates imbalance in the mind when you're just only thinking of the future. And worried about the future, fearful of the future. And then other people are lost in the past. You should have, I should have, they should have, this type of, he did this to me 2 years ago and I never forgot it. I never forgave him. This is also a disease of the mind, being stuck in the past, not being in the present. When you're in the present, all there is now, the moment now, you're breathing now. What's happening around you. The past is gone. It only exists in your head. No matter what situation you had in your past, if you move from that situation to another state or another household where they never were aware that you had the situation, then the only place the situation exists is in your head, in your memory. So it doesn't exist anymore. It already happened, but maybe the effects of it are still with you. But we need to move on. We need to be in the present. So it's very important to remain in the present. And this is one of the main objectives of meditation, is to the mind centered, keep it from wandering, be able to control the mind, to become the master of the mind and not allow it to keep going to the future, going to the past, or wandering aimlessly. I find my mind wandering aimlessly. Even when I'm going to bed at sleep. And I always try to, wake myself up. Don't let my mind go in strange direction where it's worrying and concerning or thinking of regurgitating old past or old thoughts. You have to kind of stop it from happening. It's good to look at your mind in this objective way. So, of course, the environment has an impact on our mind. Stimulation, since our mind is getting everything through the senses and the nervous system. Overstimulation, computers, billboards, flashing lights, all are creating movies. All of this is with all the drama. And, now I've heard from the young people about these techno environments, where, there's full screen around them. Laser shows and lights, and this is too much stimulation for the mind and nervous system. As these two people often have, who have a lot of stimulation, environmental stimulation in life, have anxiety, nervousness, hyperactivities, inability to focus, and it's coming from the environment which they're creating. Now, of course, I live up here in the mountains where things are going kind of slow. People walk slow. People are walking down the street. We have animals outside, ducks, chickens, dogs, birds and doves, turtles, rabbit. And you can watch the animals. Unless they're being chased by the dog, they're moving slow. And watching the chickens is very calming. We like to watch animals. Many people come to my place and we sit outside and drink tea and just watch the animals. People are very entertained for a long time because this is enough stimulation for the mind. Watching the leaves fall, watching the chickens walk around. This is enough. Once we start going to these movies where we have explosions and violence, and 3D experience, and loud sounds, we're putting on speakers or we're hearing loud music, we're overstimulating our nervous system, and this is going to affect our mind, overstimulate our mind, and lead us to many of these health issues. So also steroids has impact on our mind. Alcohol, caffeine, overstimulating our mind. And also, when the body has blockages in the body, then we can start to have blockages in the memory. Often people come to me and they have constipation. They're not going every day. Maybe they have some respiratory problems as well, not breathing well, phlegm, clogged. Maybe the lymphatic system is also blocked and congested. And then I ask them, I bet your memory's not good. I bet you're forgetful. And he goes, yeah, it is. It's like it's stuck. Well, that's right. There's a clogging, congestion that takes place. And this is from toxins building up in our system poor circulation, where the hands and feet are cold. This is signs of poor circulation. So when you have this poor circulation, poor lymphatic movement, blockage in the breathing, blockage in the colon, no appetite, blockage in the digestive system, gallbladder blockage, you're going to have blockage in the head. They all go together. So many of my patients have told me, my bowels got moving with these herbs, the breathing got moving with these herbs, my circulation got moving, diet, and now my mouth is. That's because they uncongested their whole body. People generally aren't just congested in one place. They're congested in, often the whole body. Just like inflammation. If you have muscle inflammation, joint inflammation, you probably have some nerve inflammation. You can imagine you have inflammation in the head, then you start having headaches, head pain. So people come to me with muscle pain, joint pain, or nerve pain, and I reduce the inflammation. Well, it doesn't. These herbs just don't reduce inflammation in the muscles; they reduce inflammation in the whole body. So then the people come back and say, not only did my muscle pain get better, but my headache is gone too. So they had inflammation in the head. So, and then of course there's nutritional problems. If your digestion is poor and you're not getting sufficient nutrients, then you could have cognitive problems. We know that the B vitamins are very helpful for cognitive function. So people doing diets that are, say, low in B vitamins, which would be like grain-free now, a fad diet, not have any grain. I think the people in the past would be shocked if we could go back in the past and even 50 years, not alone 100 years, and tell them that people would be scared to eat bread, scared to eat grains. They wouldn't believe that it would ever be possible. But now is the time people are so fearful, so confused that they're not eating some of these common foods. And this is mostly due to their poor digestion. Poor digestion coming from bad eating habits, snacking, and bad food combining. I have many, many videos on improving digestion. But if digestion is poor, then absorption is poor. If absorption is poor, then level is low. Nutritional level is low, then you're going to feel weakness, fatigue, memory problems. We see a lot of people, elderly people in their 70s and 80s, who have a lot of cognitive problems, memory problems, dementia, Alzheimer's. And a lot of this is from this low-fat diet, which was advocated, in the 50s, which of course now we know was a big mistake. And I think many of the theories that we have today about diet will be viewed as mistakes also in the future. You have to remember all these theories of different types of diets, they're just theories at this point. They haven't been around very long, haven't been proven. So these are not, I don't want to say always fads, but like theories. And in the 50s, the theory was low-fat diet. And unfortunately, that dried out a lot of people's brain. And this created an environment for cognitive, degenerative brain conditions and cognitive malfunction, leading to Alzheimer's, other forms of dementia. So when a person has dementia and their skin is dry, their lips are dry, their stools are dry, we can assume that brain is dry. So, we covered 3 areas right there that can affect your cognitive function. Dryness. Your lips are dry, mouth is dry, skin is dry, colon is dry, and your brain is dry, your organs are dry. This can lead to blocked gallbladders, constipation, poor circulation, and poor memory because you've dried out your brain. That's why we put them on a high-fat diet and use a lot of oils, and we even give herbs in oil for this type of dry condition. And then there's inflammation in the body and inflammation in the brain, which can produce pain, anger, irritability, headaches. And then the other area I mentioned was blockages. Colon's blocked, lips blocked, and the brain becomes blocked, memory becomes low. So, we can give them fancy names, we can think of fancy medical terms, but it's not necessary if you're going to be treating yourself. More than likely, most people have a kind of a depleted state where it's dry and there's lack of vitamins and nutrients, which is a vata type of state, or a kind of blocked state, which is more kapha, where circulation is poor, things are congested, and this is poor memory. And then a inflamed state of the body where there's irritability, anger, headaches. So let's talk about some treatments here. We did talk about some in the sense that if you're dry, then obviously you want to increase the fat in the diet. If you're nutritionally deficient, we want to increase the improve the digestion. And like I said, B vitamins, which are coming mostly from grains, are very helpful in the cognitive function. They're called the calming herbs or comfort food or grains. So when you leave those out, you can have more anxiety and nervousness. And also trace minerals, other minerals can be a problem. Of course, in the 50s and the 60s, they were doing a lot of ionized salt, and it's still prevalent in restaurants, sea salt or mountain salt, all the trace minerals. So this leads to trace mineral deficiency, which also affects the function and the communication between the brain cells, just like the nerve sheath, can be depleted when there's a low-fat diet. Well, the electrical communication between the nerve cells and the brain cells can be diminished when you have trace mineral deficiency. And this can come just from having only ionized salt for many, many years, low salt diet. And that's why we see so many cognitive problems with these elderly people from North America, is because they did low fat, low salt, and these both had an adverse effect on their cognitive function, thus created not only diabetes issues, but also a lot of forms of dementia. So let's talk about a few cures, because as I mentioned, the cures are quite effective. And let's talk about some of the herbs first, and then we'll talk about the formula. The premier herb for the brain is Brahmi. And Brahmi can come in many forms. It's an Indian herb. And Brahmi has been used for thousands of years, not just centuries, but thousands of years. And they say if you have a Brahmi every day, you will never lose your memory. And I definitely have some Brahmi every day. And we can take it in different forms. We have an oil here. I call it brain oil for the brain. We'll use that right now. And this is very good for the person who's dry or vata. And it's even good for children. And it's very slow acting. It's not stimulating by any means. It's actually, Brahmi can be very calming. It's a light nervine on it. So it's supporting and building. And what you do is you just put a few drops in your nose. It's better to be lying on your back and to have somebody administer it in your nose. This works very nicely for children. It's very calming. And in fact, you can put it on your temples, you can put it on your forehead, and it's very relaxing. You can help with anxiety, nervousness. You can put it on your feet. And then we have Brahmi ghee, which is what we give to all these people with Alzheimer's and dementia. I call it brain ghee, but in fact, and it says for improved memory, but it's basically Brahmi. And there's, of course, there's Brahmi and Gota Cola, two from the same family. We'll talk about those in a minute. And then I have a tea here. I call it, again, brain tea. But it's mostly Brahmi, as we can see from the label. But the first ingredient is ginkgo, then Brahmi, then Gota Cola, and then lemon balm. Let's talk about, that's kind of a mix of the Indian herb Brahmi, mixing with ginkgo, which is also used in Ayurveda. Ginkgo is one of the oldest known trees in the world, apparently millions of years old at the time of the dinosaurs. And guess what? It's millions of years old, and it helps with your memory. So amazing. And you can combine that with Gota Cola, ginkgo, and these are considered the premier herbs for memory. So this brain tea says improves overall circulation, improves cognitive function. It's very slightly calming and even helps with irritability. Brahmi brings down the vata, and so it's calming, plus take the edge off, so to speak, and helps with cognitive function. Wonderful tea. I'm drinking a couple cups every night. Now, in the daytime, I prefer a different tea, a little bit more keep me going, but there's the go again. I've added green tea. This is memory and energy tea. And it's got green tea. I have this in the morning, and it's also got Gota Cola, which is for circulation in mind. Gota Cola is related to Brahmi. It's a different form of Brahmi. And then there's the peppermint for taste, Electro, which is a type of ginseng. It's called Siberian ginseng. It's like a mild ginseng. And then sage, rosemary, and ginger. So this is helping with overall circulation in the body. And ginkgo in particular, and Gota Cola help with bringing more circulation and blood to the brain and helping in that manner. So by improving circulation, particularly to the brain, we're going to improve cognitive function because this brings more oxygen, more nutrients, more fatty acids to the brain. So this is a very nice tea. I drink this tea a couple cups every morning. Then in the evening, I have the brain tea. Now, if you were somebody who had a lot of anxiety and nervousness, you wouldn't want to have memory and energy tea because it has a green tea in it, and it would be too stimulating for you. Now, of course, a lot of people are taking stimulants because they're tired and fatigued, have high toxins. But when you take a stimulant tea and you are actually congesting toxins, it's like kind of whipping a horse. A horse is tired and weak, and instead of helping the horse, nurturing the horse, taking a vacation, resting, eating good, which is what the horse would need, you whip it. And that's the same thing when you take coffee, when you're depleted. Most people are overworked, stressed, not eating enough, skipping meals, fasting, dieting, and then they're tired and weak, so they just drink coffee. That's just like whipping themselves. And eventually they have adrenal fatigue and burnout. And then at that point, we have to give them adrenal tea. Now, adrenal tea has got ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is an adaptogen that gives you both mild, non-stimulating energy. It's tonifying, building, good for the nervous system, good for the adrenal glands, and calming. And we put electro, a little of that electro in there to give you some energy to keep you going, help you get off the coffee. And then licorice, which is another adaptogen, kind of a catalyst, bringing all these herbs together. Cinnamon for your circulation, cardamom, kind of a very tasty seasoning, and a little ginger for like another catalyst, making it all work together because ashwagandha is kind of heavy and ginger will help you to digest it. So if you need energy, but you're the type of person that's sensitive to coffee and caffeine, but you're fatigued, burned yourself out, overworked yourself to death, raising 3 kids and things like that, or maybe 5 kids and 2 jobs, then you're better off to get off the coffee and move over to the adrenal tea or ashwagandha, electro, ginseng to keep you going. Because this can help. Now, if you have more anxiety, then we want to use more calming herbs like passion flower. Passion flower is a nervine. You can mix it with a little lavender. You have a little child that doesn't sleep, you can use lavender essential oils. You can put a little lavender in a bag and just put it in the crib with the baby. And even a baby will smell the lavender and sleep better. You can put a lavender essential oils and diffuse it in a room and everybody. So lavender, passion flower, these are very nice. You put them in a base of lemon balm. Then you have a nice tea called relaxing and calming tea. It's very simple. And relaxing and calming tea, lemon balm, skullcap and catnip. These are big time nervines. Really settle you down. And a motherwort also. There's our lavender. Oat straw. Oat straw is nutritional support for the nerves. That's why people with a lot of anxiety and nervousness, I tell them to have oatmeal in the morning. Oats are very calming, sedative, and it's very good for a person who has anxiety even in the morning. And then there's that passion flower, a very effective nervine, and we also use it in a blood pressure. Motherwort and passion flower we use in the high blood pressure herbs because they relax the heart muscles. That's right. And then cinnamon and stevia just to make these good. And a few rose petals for the ladies, so it has an extra little special touch for you. Very popular tea, probably one we sell more than almost any other tea. Not difficult to make on your own. Lavender, passion flower, rosemary, and stevia and oat straw. It's very nice. But even if you just drank lemon balm and passion flower all by itself, you will feel more calm, more relaxed. So there's some people, I tell them to drink that tea all day long. So now I'm going to talk about a few other Indian herbs, particularly I'm going to talk about the most famous uh, Indian formula. It's called Saraswati. Saraswati means it's the name of a Hindu god. Saraswati was the god of knowledge. I'm not expert in Hindu Vedic teachings, but I do know that Saraswati means the god of knowledge. And then Churna means powder. So this is, I call it um, brain and memory tonic. But if you look at the ingredients, it says Saraswati Churna. So this is about 16 herbs. It's a very old formula, ancient formula. They say over thousands of years old. And you can take little pinches of it. And this really brings on memory recall. We spoke a second ago about these nervines to relax and slow down the nervous system. But now we're talking about reviving with this blockage, with this inability to focus. Then we take this Saraswati. I have a little bowl on my desk. And just put a pinch on your mouth. Just, wow, lights right up. Bam. Whoo, wakes you right up, and you become sharp and clear. And it cuts through this congestion and blockages in the mind. So some people have this slow mind, sluggish mind, not sharp. This makes it sharp, have good recall, a good recollection of the thoughts. Saraswati Churna. Just Google it. You can find it. It's readily available. I'm just filling it in little jars to people, and they're taking it. Now, of course, remember, if the person's dry, then I'd rather put it in the heat for that type of condition. And if they have a lot of anxiety, then we wouldn't really use that. It's slightly stimulating, but very effective. And then also, like we said, the you can reach the brain through that the nervous system, and you can reach the nervous system through the senses. So you can use beautiful music, ambient music to calm the nerves, to calm the brain. Even sweet food will calm the brain. And smell. So in Ayurveda, we have different type of herbal incense. This is called Vata Nasa sticks, and they are for balancing Vata, nervous anxiety. So you burn these. They're not really incense, but you just inhale a little bit. Real chilled. Oh, yes, very super chilled. Oh, works instantly, because when you take it through the nose, that's why I put the oil in your nose, then you feel it right away, straight into the brain. That's why these oils are often used in the nostrils. And you lie on your back, and they pour it in your nostrils, and it goes into your brain. Also in Ayurveda, there's what's called Shirandara. Shirandara is where you lie on your back, and they pour the herbal oils on your forehead for half an hour. And this settles the mind, because the herbs are oil, and the oil is pouring on your mind. So we use herbs and oil. And in fact, if there's a lot of nervousness, tingling, numbness in the body, we can cover the whole body with these herbs, but herbal oils. And this will balance this condition very quickly. But here we can put sometimes herbal oils on the head, like this brain oil, Brahmi oil. We can put it right here on the temples, right across the forehead. And this will affect the thinking and the mind, just like I put it in the nostrils. So we have other herbs here. The big herbs that are used in Ayurveda for the mind are Shankpushpi. We already talked about Brahmi, Shankpushpi, and Tagar and Jatamatsi. And here we can see a calming formula. There's a calming formula. It says calming formula. And this is good for anxiety, panic attacks. It's much more effective than the teas. This tea is very mild. You can drink it all day long and just stay chilled. You can drink it at work and stay relaxed if you have a screaming boss. But if you're having panic attacks, more severe, then the powders are much more effective than the tea, because when you ingest the whole herb, it's much more effective than if you just have the infusion. So teas are weak to some degree, and powders is more potent. And when you put them in oil form, They're more gentle and slow acting. So that's why they're very good for children. So here we see the ingredients, ashwagandha, kind of like a base. I hope you know about ashwagandha. It's an adaptogen. We talked about it a little bit. Jatamatsi, which we could say is very similar to passion flower, calming, nervine. And then Shank-Pushpi, also a nervine, but very good for anger and irritability. And there's Brahmi again, and then Tagar. And Tagar is related to valerian. Sometimes they call it Indian valerian. So there's a little bit of Tagar in here that's sedative. That's why this works for panic attacks. Half a teaspoon and panic attack stops, because there's Tagar. It's a sedative. There's calming, supporting the nervous system. Ashwagandha, calming with the Jatamatsi and Shank-Pushpi, slightly sedative with the Tagar, which is like Indian valerian. And then, of course, there's Brahmi in here, because all health conditions, we're using Brahmi. And there's many formulas which we can go through. So, here I show you this Shank-Pushpi. I don't have the picture, but it's a flower. It's a flower. These flowers are often what are used to calm the mind. The roots are like cleansing, strong. The bark is even more like a Juna bark. We use it out the arteries. It's a bark. But when it comes to calming the mind, notice it's the flowers. Chamomile flower, lavender flower, and Shank-Pushpi is also a little white flower. And then Jatamatsi also I have here. And I can just go through a few little combinations. That how these can be used. For example, if you have confusion, you're very confused, and you mix Brahmi and Shank-Pushpi together. Yeah. And if you have very indecisive, you use Brahmi, Ringraj, which is another herb I didn't have, and together. And if you're sleeping too much, then it's always good to eat less, but Brahmi tea at bedtime, that which I have there, or Brahmi oil in the nose. And then if you're dullness to mind, mind is dull, then Brahmi, Shank-Pushpi, licorice, and this Saraswati together. For depression, Brahmi and Saraswati. It's this herb that the formula, Saraswati turnip, because it's opening up. And also we have another herb for depression called Jyotismatsi. In fact, we have this one formula here called Mood Balance. And this is amazing formula, amazing. We actually give it out to samples to people, allow them to try it. And there it is, Brahmi, the premier herb for the mind, Shank-Pushpi, which we talked about as nervine, but particularly good for irritability and anger and bringing down pitta. And then Jyotismatsi. Jyotismatsi is good for depression. It's also used for intelligence, to students to learn, and it has a kind of a positive feel to it. It just makes a little more positive thinking. So it's a wonderful. So we use it for all three: depression, anxiety, and irritability, and the results are just phenomenal. One herb is each one. Jyotismatsi for the depression and kind of is uplifting, people say. Brahmi is kind of for the brain and calming, and Shank-Pushpi is also calming but good for irritability. So, all three together, 3333 is a very nice formula, and it is based on a traditional formula, as most of these herbs, Indian formulas are based on traditional formulas. There's really not much new to be an herbalist, an Ayurvedic tradition. These formulas have already been formulated. Most problems have already been seen. Like King Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. We're just humans have had similar issues with their health and their cognitive state, and they formulated these formulas years ago to address each of these different conditions of the mind. So I hope that gives you some hope and some confidence. A few other things I'd like to mention real quickly about improving mental function, particularly with children, is to avoid all sugar. Before I was asked to speak at an organization that helped parents or consulted parents with children with, inability to focus, ADHD, and conditions like this. And the first thing I told the parents is this was like the type of place parents had to go to decide if they were going to give their children medication or not. And this organization was trying to educate people to avoid having to give medication to their children, which I think has been completely overused, because most of the time this is a problem that's not from the children, but the environment and the diet. So I told these parents, don't even think of giving medication to your children if you're giving them any form of sugar at all, because this is very stimulating to the children. Sugar is like the child's cocaine. From the 70s, they had that cocaine and amphetamines and this type of stimulant type of drug, and that's what it is for the children. So once a child is addicted to this, as many adults know, it's very hard to wean themselves off. Many adults are still addicted from sugar, from childhood, from family members allowing them to have sweets and sugar. So you should just cut all sugar out of the child's diet immediately, or you are creating the cause. And then remove a lot of the stimulation, the TV, the computer, the movies, fighting, arguing, and create a more healthy environment for your child, a peaceful environment and a calm environment. That's why I moved up here to the mountains for my son 10 years ago when he was 2 years old, to put him in a more calm and peaceful environment, the mountains. And unfortunately, it worked great for me too. I found that living in a more calm and peaceful environment made me more calm and peaceful. So must change the diet first. No stimulants, no Red Bull, no coffee, no sugar. These need to go. You need to find other healthy alternatives or deal with the causes why you don't have energy, which are subjects which I could discuss with you privately as a client, or you could come to your own understanding of your own body. But you don't want to rely on food. You have to rely on food, then you have issues with your health. Some people are just stimulating themselves because they don't sleep good. Some people don't sleep good because they're urinating at night. So, here you are, urinating at night, not sleeping good, and then you're having to get dependent on stimulant when the whole problem goes back to your mild urinary tract infection. So it'd be better to get rid of the urinary tract infection, sleep better, and not need the stimulants. Or overworking, people need vacations. So change the diet, change the environment first before you start taking more serious actions or thinking of any type of medical care. So I think this is very important, and making sure digestion is good. Because like I said in the beginning, if digestion is poor, nutritional level will be low, and then mind will be one of the first areas to be affected. And so any radical diet, extreme diet, all fat, all protein, no carbs, these are all going to have adverse effects on the nervous system, digestive system, and ultimately your state of mind. And things like meditation, yoga, pranayama, breathing, these have been around for thousands of years because they're very effective at improving your state of mind and calming the body. And I would encourage you to try these before you looked at taking any form of medication. Okay? So, and if you need more personal help with your health, feel free to contact me. And, I'm always happy to talk to anybody about their health and give advice. And these herbs are very effective, very powerful, as you can see from my testimonial. So I hope if you have any mental imbalance, or somebody in your family or loved one has such a mental imbalance, know that they are easily treatable with the right herbs. You can't guess with herbs. You have to really, really know the herbs very well. You can't just go read about herbs online, and then, because the dosage is very important, how much that you give, how they're taken. Are they taken in teas? Are they taken in ghee? Should they put in the nose? Should they be put on the feet? Should they put in the forehead? What combination, how long? All these little details are very important, and it's very difficult to do on your own if you have a serious health condition, like Alzheimer's, dementia, A.H.D. Then you should try to get professional care from a professional herbalist. Chinese herbalist can do anything an Indian herbalist can do. They have also many of the same herbs, and they're able to formulate them to help balance your mental state. So herbs are very effective. And just to review, you have to make sure the diet is not just healthy and good food, but not too stimulating. Systems are moving, not clogged. There's no inflammation in the body, and there's not dryness and depletion. These are all the states and conditions that will adversely affect your mental health. Okay, I hope that helped you, and I hope my information was accurate. Forgive me if in any way I provided information which was inaccurate. I do my best to provide this knowledge, which is not my knowledge, but the knowledge of Ayurveda, ancient knowledge, ancient wisdom, and translate it, provide it in a simple way that you can understand it and hopefully help you in your life. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And I, once again, hope and pray this guidance, wisdom helps you improving your health and your cognitive state, and even restores your memory. Thank you very much.
Greetings from beautiful Southern California. I sincerely hope you learned from this video and benefited from all the information. This knowledge is not my knowledge, nor is this information new, but part of the ancient healthcare system called Ayurveda, the science of life. I hope my videos explaining the Ayurvedic approach in a simple and clear manner help you to overcome your health issues. However, if you have a complex or serious health condition, I highly recommend that you contact me personally so I can meet with you here in my clinic in Ojai, California, or in an online conference call, so I can properly diagnose your condition and provide you with an individualized diet and custom herbal formulas. Then I will follow up and continue to support you until you have recovered. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel below and visit my website for more information, appointment fees, upcoming events, and my schedule, where you can book an appointment directly online. Thank you once again, and I wish you the best of health and happiness.